Coming up today, facing threats from home and abroad, President Park Geun-hye orders full readiness against possible terror attacks. The ruling party and the government agree on the need for a supplementary budget to pay for job programs and for workers who might be affected by the government's corporate restructuring drive. Plus, South Korea's main opposition party vows to reduce the wealth gap between the rich and poor. It also pledges to tackle corruption within the nation's business groups. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, June 22nd here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye has renewed her call for stronger national security and economy. On both fronts, South Korea is facing tough challenges at home and abroad. Our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun has our top story.
National security topped the agenda for President Park's first cabinet meeting since her return from Africa and France. The president stressed the looming threat of attacks on South Korea and its people. North Korea has often threatened to bomb the presidential office, and Seoul's intelligence agency said Sunday that the Islamic State militant group had targeted U.S. air bases in Korea and one Korean citizen. Given these threats, President Park renewed her call for stronger counterterrorism measures.
테러는 사전 예방이 무엇보다도 중요한 만큼 6월 4일 출범한 국무총리실 소속 대테러 센터를 중심으로 우리나라에서 발생 가능한 테러 양상과 이에 따른 대비책을 사전에 준비하고 훈련 체계까지 철저히 점검해야 할 것입니다.
President Park also noted that Korean economy is facing strong challenges from both at home and abroad, with additional uncertainties from the EU referendum scheduled for Thursday. She added that the government's restructuring efforts must continue, however painful they may be, in order to upgrade Korea's industry so they can pave the way for new growth.
지금 같은 어려운 상황을 헤쳐가기 위해서는 국내 여건만을 조정하고 우리에게 주어진 길만을 가서는 안 될 것입니다. 안으로는 지속적인 변화와 개혁을 통해서 우리 경제의 체질을 개선하고 밖으로는 새로운 시장을 끊임없이 개척해야 합니다.
Referring to her recent trips to Iran, East Africa, and France, President Park also called on her cabinet to follow through with the business agreements reached with the partner countries so that massive projects to build industrial complexes and boost infrastructure can gain momentum. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's ruling party and the government have agreed on the need to spur economic growth, and they're planning to take more active steps toward achieving that goal. It could involve drawing up a supplementary budget this year. Our Park Ji-won reports.
Lawmakers from the ruling Minjoo Party's Job Creation Committee have asked government officials, including vice ministers from the nation's finance and labor ministries, to seriously consider an infusion of extra funds later this year. In a meeting at the National Assembly on Tuesday, the lawmakers explained a budget supplement is particularly necessary for youth job creation efforts and for workers who might be affected by the government's drive to restructure ailing industries. In response, Vice Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok said the government understands the need for a budget supplement and said it's reviewing the role of fiscal support. The government is expected to announce a set of new fiscal measures to prop up the economy next Tuesday. That's likely to include a budget supplement, and though the amount hasn't yet been decided, it's reportedly expected to be around 8.6 billion to 13 billion US dollars. If the government decides to go ahead with the budget supplement, a related bill will be submitted to the parliament early next month. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now staying with domestic politics, and the interim leader of the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea briefed lawmakers on Tuesday on his party's priorities during the 20th National Assembly. It was the second in a series of addresses from the major parties this week. Shin Se-min with the details.
The main talking point, once again, is the economy. In his first address to Parliament on Tuesday, Kim Jong-un, the interim leader of main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea, said that the country's economic fundamentals should change to support economic democratization, a drive to ease the country's growing wealth gap. He said it's a task topping the party agenda and a step forward in preparing for the future.
It's the duty of the 20th National Assembly to realize economic democratization, to prevent our economy from falling into more serious problems, such as what was seen in Japan and their 2 lost decades.
He also addressed the issue of financial irregularities at Korea's family-controlled conglomerates known as chaebol, saying he will push to strengthen oversight of the conglomerates to prevent financial abuses and abuses of power. Kim also weighed in on an ongoing debate over whether to revise the constitution, calling for a special committee to deal with the matter. The main issue at the heart of the debate is the presidential term limit, and advocates are calling to change the current single 5-year presidential system to 2 4-year terms. Experts say the change would help keep the president from having too much power. Touching on inter-Korean relations, Kim said coordinating with the North's longtime ally, China, is crucial, as are ties with Seoul's traditional allies.
For the sanctions on North Korea to be effective, China has a huge role to play. At the same time, the Korean government should maintain close ties with the US and should not shy away from mutual cooperation.
He also proposed holding an inter-Korean parliamentary-level meeting to help ease the current tensions between the 2 Koreas. With that, 2 of the 3 main political parties wrapped up their policy addresses. And next up is a minor opposition People's Party to deliver their party agendas on Wednesday. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea appears to be prepping yet another missile launch off its east coast. The South Korean military on Tuesday confirmed a missile has been loaded and it's on the move, though there are no signs of an immediate or imminent launch. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff announced on Tuesday that they have spotted signs of missile launch preparations from North Korea. The South Korean military says the missile is loaded onto a mobile launch pad. It said it is keeping a close eye on the missile's movements. Tokyo has reportedly ordered its self-defense forces to intercept the missile if it falls into Japanese territory. Kyodo news agency reported Japan deployed Aegis destroyers to the East Sea and has PAC-3 missiles on standby to intercept the missile in the event of a launch. The missile is believed to be a mid-range Musdan, which has a range of up to 4,000 kilometers, putting the U.S. territory of Guam within reach. North Korea first deployed the missile in 2007, but hadn't tested it until this year. It has fired off 4 of them starting in mid-April, but all of the launches ended in failure. The tests were conducted off the eastern coastal city of Wonsan in the North Gangwon-do province. Many experts believe North Korea will continue to test the Musdan until the launch is successful. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
U.S. Vice President Joe Biden says he told Chinese President Xi Jinping that Japan is capable of going nuclear virtually overnight in a conversation where he urged Beijing to do more to curb North Korea. In an interview with PBS, Biden said China has the single greatest ability to influence Pyongyang by cutting off a range of things, but it could also cause the implosion of the regime. Biden said he explained to the Chinese leader that the U.S. is trying to bolster its defense system in order to counter North Korea's nuclear threat. When President Xi brought up what his military would think, seeing the U.S. surround China, Biden asked him what would happen if Japan went nuclear overnight. Biden didn't say when that conversation with President Xi happened, but added that he had spent more time with him than any other world leader. The clock is ticking for Brits to decide whether to stay within or leave the European Union. Latest poll numbers show public sentiment is leaning slightly towards remain. Experts say that for export-reliant economies like South Korea, the UK staying in the EU would be the best outcome. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
A late Monday poll by an independent social research institute, Natsen, says those opposing Brexit have outrun those in favor by 6 percentage points. A separate poll on the same day by ORB for the Daily Telegraph newspaper shows supporters that want to stay in the EU surpass those wanting to quit the bloc by 7 percentage points. Only the YouGov poll for the Times newspaper suggests that the Brexit vote hangs on a balance, with Leave at 44% and 42% for Remain. The campaign to leave the EU were more rampant, up until the death of former Labour Party lawmaker Joe Cox, who wanted Britain to remain. Financial markets reflected investor sentiment that the country is highly likely to remain in the bloc. The British pound surged 2% against the greenback on Monday trading, the most since 2008, after the currency plunged since the start of the month on Brexit worries. A local expert says the sentiment among Brits to remain is favorable for other countries like Korea, which highly depends on exports for growth.
Korean exporters to Britain may face unfavorable conditions in price competitiveness with other countries as a result of Brexit. Customs policies that they've enjoyed under the current Korea-EU FTA may no longer hold after a 2-year grace period following Britain's exit from the EU.
Apart from exports, the economist added a Brexit will bring more uncertainty to the local financial market until the EU decides which state will act as a financial hub to the region if its predecessor Britain decides to leave. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, the chair of the Federal Reserve says Britain's vote on its EU membership could have an adverse impact on the US economy. Janet Yellen made the remark on Tuesday in a testimony before the Senate Banking Committee. She added that a downturn in productivity could also be a permanent drag on the US economy. In general terms, though, she expressed some optimism, playing down the risk of a recession in the US. But she added the Fed will be cautious about rate increases unless the job market shows clear signs of stability. Experts say her comments suggest the Fed is unlikely to raise rates at its next policy meeting in late July. Now, back here in Korea, and after months of weighing up the pros and cons, the Korean government has decided against building a new airport in the south of the country. It will instead expand and upgrade Gimhae International Airport. Kim Jong-soo has more.
After months of surveying possible sites in the southeastern region of the country, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport announced on Tuesday that it has decided to further develop the existing Gimhae International Airport in the port city of Busan, rather than build a completely new facility. Before the announcement made today, the ministry, in cooperation with French airport architecture and engineering company ADPI, conducted a year-long study on 2 cities, Gov't Island near the southern port city of Busan and the inland town of Arirang in South Gyeongsang Province.
So, no surprise, there is a new site in Gov't, there is a new site in Arirang, but we also considered Gimhae Airport extension.
The ministry said that the revamped Gimhae International Airport will be equipped with additional runways and terminals, as well as more roads for improved accessibility. Seoul's Transport Minister Kang Ho-in said, quote, "The expansion was decided after a thorough and democratic process, and is the best option when taking all factors into account, which include safety, accessibility, and environmental soundness." Gimhae International Airport is currently located in the western tip of Busan, recording a transit of more than 12 million passengers in 2015. The airport has recently been overwhelmed with a growing number of international passengers. Response to the announcement, however, has been varied. The mayor of Busan voiced his strong disappointment, saying that expanding the Gimhae International Airport is not a solution to its lingering problems.
I cannot comprehend this decision. No amount of expansion can fix Gimhae International Airport's safety and traffic problems. I will do my best so that the city of Busan will have a proper second airport in the near future.
The decision to expand Gimhae comes after months of debate between Korea's main political camps, each advocating for a new airport to be built in their home turfs. The project will be funded entirely by the central government, and it will complete supplementary studies by the end of this year. Kim Jung-soo, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for watching. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Our next scheduled bulletin coming up at 10 a.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.